Guys, Nate back with another YouTube video, this time on cards that I think should make it past rotation. So I did a video on cards that shouldn't make it past rotation for my first one. This one is more cards that I think either are fun gameplay wise and interesting, or cards that I think are necessary tools in the format to have, otherwise we might be in for a tougher format. And I could obviously be wrong, but I like to caveat with those kinds of things. So the first one, obvious card I have to choose, is my personal favorite, Be Prepared. This is my personal favorite card in general, but I think it's a necessary tool because if you think about the way that the course of a Digital Arcana game goes, a lot of times you're going to have points where if a person can flood the board with too many characters and there's not like a mass removal answer, you're going to be in a very tough time. Right, we see this with Blurple a lot, where the deck is extraordinarily strong, but it can only answer one thing at a time, which is very problematic. So that sort of gameplay of Be Prepared keeps decks that want to flood the board kind of honest. So if we don't get a Be Prepared, I think we need some sort of one-to-one replacement. Obviously, the other answer could be like reprinting Big Sisu. I think Big Sisu creates a lot worse feel bads, but it could be interesting to have that card without Be Prepared, so you're like not, and you don't have any of your shift target, right? Like, so you've got the only shift target that I can think of off the top of my head right away is actually that purple Sisu that like quests it to a dragon. So there's some interesting play that way. I think we need some sort of board wipe in the format just to keep more aggressive flood the board decks honest. Otherwise, we're gonna be in for a very like character heavy only format without being punished for getting more than one. And you could say that's a good thing or a bad thing. I personally obviously am a big fan of board wipes. I've sort of been outspoken this entire time with my memes and stuff that like I think a card like Be Prepared is important to have in the game, and I hope that that's what we get reprinted. Also, I kind of hope that we get like an iconic reprint of it, you know, like full art. I would shell out piles of money for that. I would give up lots of money for a full set of full art Be Prepared. So make it happen, Ravensburger.
I want to spend my life savings on this. I want to abandon all financial responsibility and dump it in here.
The next one, in my opinion, is what I would call the fairest steel song, being Along Came Zeus. This card I think is really good to have in the format as an answer to a lot of different things. It hits locations, hits characters that are kind of large, you know, especially in a format that we are going into with Maui Shark still existing. As much as I personally love Maui Shark, that's my boy, everybody knows that about me. But I think if we're going to have these big fat characters that are very strong, we're going to need removal that stands up to them. And actually, one of the common things that I'm seeing is a lot of this removal does seem to get rotated out. I think that personally the 3-cost songs that you can kind of sing on turn 2 are a little bit gross. Zeus as a song is very balanced in that it's uninkable. The minimum you can sing it is on 3 if you have a Troubadour next for it, because we're not even going to have Vanessa available. And then on top of that, I think it's a good sort of stopgap for big characters and locations especially. I think that this is probably the safest song to reprint. It gives you some incentive to still play singer type characters without giving the degeneracy that is Storm and Strength. Those cards are very unnecessary to keep in the game, in my opinion. They're very strong and they're too efficient for what they do. Zeus is that sweet spot for me where it feels like this card is balanced. This card keeps a lot of things in check. This card is still very good while being balanced. That's the important thing to strike, is the cards that are very good but still balanced. I think that Zeus hits that itch perfectly. I would be happy to see that in the next format. So the next card I want to talk about is Ursula Deceiver Ball. Ursula Deceiver Ball is like weirdly like suffering from success, right? That's right. It's a card that only exists in sort of green steel decks where you're playing removal and you're getting 2-for-1 removal like hyper efficiently. So I think that card could actually be really, really cool in a format that doesn't have Strength and Storm. Obviously, if you reprint one of those cards, don't reprint that card because you're just creating this combo that's going to be gross to have to deal with all the time. But I think on its own, when it's singing like interesting stuff, you know, like I can't think of a new song off the top of my head. I guess like I'm Still Here is still like a green steel combination where you get to draw 2 cards, but you give something resist 4 as functionally, right? That could be really, really interesting rather than I've 2-for-1 you with my removal. This card is really gross. Like, I think it's a card that can create very interesting gameplay as long as it's in the right kind of format. That's why I really think the card should be reprinted. I think it's a very fun card too. It creates really interesting interactions. Like you never know what you're gonna sing off of it. The only thing that I probably wouldn't like to see, obviously, is like Ursula Beyond the Horizon shenanigans. But without Prince John in the format, I don't think that is all that problematic. Like if you want to double wheel people, sure, whatever. But like I'm sure there's something that maybe it's very strong with. But I could see that card being reprinted and being like an interesting card in the format instead of just like I sing strength, I sing storm, your characters all die, you're sad, I'm not. That's the kind of thing that Ursula does. So I'm kind of interested to see if they that card in a format without those other cards. Next one, Rapunzel, gifted with healing. This card is actually probably the most waffly card of any card on this list. I think it makes a lot of sense to reprint because it is the strongest yellow card that also encourages the kind of gameplay that Ravensburger kind of wants us to do, right? They want you to quest your guys, they want you to challenge things, they want you to set up interesting board plays. I think Rapunzel does a really good job of that. But it is really, really strong, and it is always kind of like an auto 4 of in any yellow deck that you're going to play. I could see them going, nah, maybe not. I could also see like a functional reprint style card where they go like, maybe give us a song or an action that does the Rapunzel effect on its own. That could be really interesting too. I think Rapunzel is a very good card and something that you could reprint and be happy with. I could also see it being like a little too powerful and people being like, don't reprint this card, let the yellow decks die, I guess. I don't know. Maybe that's where the people are at. I think that Rapunzel is in an interesting spot for sure. Again, the least confident I am about any card on this list by like a lot. Finally, a card that could be like a little divisive, but I don't really think so, is Maurice's Workshop. This card I put on this list because I feel like blue after rotation is going to have its only identity be sort of like half baked in like solid ramp, which it does have good ramp, but then like not a lot of items, but they kind of want items. Maurice's to me is fairly balanced, especially if there is no Popsicle in the format, which I talked about in my last video. I do not think we should have Popsicle next format. I think that card would be a bad idea to keep around. I think an item that makes your other items Popsicle pretty reasonable. You'll have to work for it quite a bit because a lot of the good items are rotating out, especially if, again, like I said in my first video, I don't think Lucky Dime should be brought through rotation. I think that Maurice's is a good solid way to keep strategies afoot that they're still wanting to push. We've seen some red-blue cards that have item synergy. I think that Maurice's is a good way to be like, all right, here's your card that keeps the deck still glued together. You can kind of figure out the rest. So I really think that Maurice's, while it is a strong card and does make things difficult currently sometimes, I think that card is worth a reprint, and I have no issue with it off the top of my head. And I think it creates fun gameplay too. Like, playing item decks is kind of fun for some people. So, not for me. I play Ruby Amethyst. But some people really enjoy that style of deck. I think that. So there's my list, guys. These are just some core cards that I think are good to keep around or interesting to keep around in the game. There's definitely cards in here that I could see having one-to-one reprints or functional reprints that are a little bit different. Like, for example, the biggest one that I've kind of talked about with friends is Be Prepared. I could see having, like, I don't know, 6 costs, but it's a dual colored card or something. Different kinds of stop gaps on a card that does a similar thing. I'm not sure where they're going to go with these things. These are just things that I think would be good reprints if we're going to get some solid reprints in the next set. Let me know what you think should be reprinted, or if you think I'm just straight up wrong. That is very possible. I'm a human. I say things wrong sometimes. I don't know. Let me know.